Hi. Oh, is this on? Hi. Uh, my name is Alec, and I am an RC crawling enthusiast and a hobby addict. And this is my story. Hello there, friends and RC family. My name is Alec from High Noon Hobbies, and if you are new to this channel, I very much appreciate you checking it out. I hope you will stick around, watch at least this video, see if this content seems worth your while, and consider subscribing so that then I can say to you, if you aren't new here, welcome back to yet another Friday upload. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to take a look back at 2022 and do a full year in review for my first year in the RC hobby and basically my first year of becoming a hobby addict in general. All the things I've learned, all the things I've enjoyed, all the memories that I've made, we're going to kind of speed run through it all. I'm going to try to make this video as quick as I can, but there's so much that has happened in this first year. So I want to start out by saying thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you to everyone that I have met along the way. But your guys' support on this channel has been huge. This community has grown so large, and I really appreciate each and every one of you, which leads me into the one thing I want to say before we get started on the video. This is the last day to get entered into the High Noon Hobby 2000 subscriber giveaway. Go to highnoonhobby.com/2K giveaway. Throw in your name, throw in your email, decide whether or not you want to be a part of the email list for future giveaways, and that's it. That's all you got to do to get entered, but you have to do it by tonight, by 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and then we are going to be announcing the winner on January 1st, the new year, at the same time or in the same stream that we do our 2022 year donation to the Utah Four-Wheel Drive Association, which is 50% of all of our proceeds going to that organization for the 2022 season. I appreciate everyone's support. I appreciate everyone who has purchased something on the website. It means the world to me. It really does help me get out to these events and really just help motivate me to continue doing what I'm doing, seeing that so many people are enjoying this along with me, as I am enjoying it along with you guys and everyone that I've met this year. So another huge shout out to everyone that's going to kind of make their cameo in this video, but let's just get straight into it because I feel like this is going to be a long one. I hope that you guys enjoy. I know that we're going to have a good time watching all this stuff back with each other, so let's just get right into it, shall we? So it all started back in November of 2021. I had just finished up school. I'd gotten my first kind of real job, and well, I needed something to keep me motivated, to keep going outside, as well as keep me sane while I was trapped inside during kind of the crappy weather months of the winter season that we get here in Salt Lake City. You know, I'd been looking at RC crawling for a little while, and I decided that the combination of the potential trails that I could hit in our area that would be pretty cool, and the never-ending upgrades that could give me a lot of time on the bench, enjoying kind of just tinkering with stuff, was a great combination to cure this kind of new adult-itis that I found myself experiencing, having gotten out of school just recently. So I headed to the hobby shop and I went there to pick up basically the truck that I already knew that I wanted from the months of research that I had been doing, watching other people's YouTube channels, seeking out blogs and stuff like that online for different information on RC crawlers. I went to the store and I picked up a Traxxas TRX4. Figured it would be a great first truck because they're known to be super durable. The aftermarket for Traxxas, especially the TRX4 being as old of a platform as it is absolutely massive, so I'd be definitely entertained both on the bench and on the trail. And I went for a Bronco body at the same time, the Traxxas Bronco body that's pre-painted. I went with that because I figured, not necessarily because I was like a huge Ford fanboy or anything like that, but mostly because it was one of the few options that I thought that I had. Little did I know at that time that the hobby store has an entire wall of bodies in the back that you can, buy a clear Lexan or buy a painted body and just cut to fit in terms of, reaming out holes depending on where you need them. But you can basically make any body work on this truck relatively easily. Little did I know at the time, so I went with the Bronco body. I spent a fortune on a Traxxas pre-painted body, but I love it still to this day. It's become an iconic rig on the channel, and it ended up working out. And now I am kind of a little bit of a Ford fanboy. It turned me into one. Maybe not a die-hard fanboy, but certainly I do love my classic Bronco. Wasn't long before I was back at the hobby shop buying more upgrades for this truck. Within probably a week, I was back at the hobby shop picking up bumpers. I wanted metal bumpers. I wanted a winch bumper. I wanted to get a winch to put on that bumper. Wanted a light kit. I wanted sliders. And most importantly, I picked up a ton of brass. Anyone who's been a fan of the channel since those early days, they probably remember me questioning my life decisions when I got all of that GPM brass and tried to figure out if it was truly worth it to put it on the truck. That being said, I did throw most of the brass, I think most of the brass that I purchased on the TRX4, and it's still on there to this day. It's actually made a really capable rig. I've enjoyed it, and the TRX4s are tough. They can handle the extra weight, so I haven't had any problems with it so far. It's funny, I end up kind of learning a lot of lessons in my life from hard experiences and stupid purchase decisions. This was certainly one of those, but I think in the end it's ended up working out. I have enjoyed the setup for the truck. I've had to tune it a little bit, but overall it wasn't the worst decision I've made, that's for sure. Then on November 13th, something happened that would kind of change my entire experience in the RC crawling hobby. I went on my first trail run with a group of guys, and it was the Slut Crawlers, aptly named because they're based in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I met a lot of the guys on this trail run that would end up becoming some of my great friends this year. Some I consider some of my best friends, and really started to dive into this hobby fully. I even met T at this trail run, and T was the first guy that I saw running behind his tiny truck with a full-blown DSLR camera, and that just got my gears going like a shot of nitrous. I all of a sudden was completely enamored with the idea of going on trail runs with my camera, because this was combining a hobby, photography, that I had been into for most of my life with this brand new hobby that I was taking a liking to so quickly. I was really beginning to love RC crawling, and the idea that I could put these two things together, obviously the thing that I loved about RC crawling was getting to watch these crawlers and how cool the articulation and everything looked as you were going over obstacles, and being able to combine that with high quality photography and being able to share these images of these tiny trucks, making them look full size with such a large community of people that enjoyed doing the same. It hadn't even dawned on me, and that was really important to me, because that was kind of the start. That was a little bit of the conception of the whole idea that I could potentially make a YouTube channel or at least an Instagram account and start sharing some of this stuff that I would be putting together over the coming months. Little did I know that I would be traveling thousands of miles across the state and the country with this group of guys, going to all sorts of different RC events and having an absolute blast, making tons of memories, learning so much, and meeting so many amazing new people. I had no clue, but I knew that this was the start of something really cool, as well as starting to pick up on the fact that all of these people brought all of these amazing, skills, all of this knowledge from outside the hobby, and they brought it into the hobby. They brought all this passion for all these different things, whether it be full-scale crawling or whether it be, RC boats, RC planes, RC drones, that type of stuff, FPV drones, which we'll get into a little bit later in this video. But there's so many different things that I was going to find out about that I had no clue getting into it. I just knew that this was a cool group of guys that I wanted to hang around and see where things went from here. I feel so incredibly lucky looking back on this year for all the amazing experiences that I have had, all the great memories that I've made with these guys. But I feel especially lucky for this one moment, this one day where I decided to, go onto the Facebook group, see what was going on. I saw that there was a trail run happening, and I think that might have been the night before. And then that morning I was, kind of butterflies in my stomach for some stupid reason, like, oh, is there going to be like 2 people there? Is there going to be like 100 people there? I have no clue. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know how my truck was going to perform, how it was going to look to everyone else. And it turned out to be such an amazing experience and really opened the door to so much more. So what I would have to say there is, if you haven't gone out, tried to find a group, make your own group of RC crawling buddies, absolutely do it. That's one of the things that makes this hobby so incredible. If you don't have anyone near you to get into the hobby with, go online, go on Facebook. There's tons of groups online that you can be part of that will make you feel like you're a part of this overall giant community of RC crawling enthusiasts, and it will ignite your fire, I think, to build your own group if you don't have one near you. And trust me, these things are so addictive. It won't take long before you'll have an entire crew of guys with you every time you go out to the trails. From there, the year seemed to pick up speed, and soon enough, it felt like an absolute blur. November 20th, I attended my first actual RC crawling event, and it was amazing. 801 RCC Builds and Adventures, which is a group of guys that actually run the West Valley Hobbies shop in Utah, a group of people that I am beyond thankful to have met and become familiar with. Those guys are an absolute wealth, a fountain of knowledge, and they're really, really helpful, whether you need to buy a whole new truck, whether you need to buy just one tiny weird part that you're not even sure about, or whether you just want to find out more about RC crawling or any of the hobbies that really you could think of. They have it. They have it in that shop. They know about it, and they can help you figure it out as well. Very, very happy to have met those guys. But this was the first event. This really was an eye-opener for me, seeing this parking lot just materialize in the middle of the desert. All these people show up to become essentially enamored with each other's tiny trucks and just play around on the rocks for hours and hours and hours. I actually made that video series where I talked about, what you can do to become, or what you can do to be prepared for your first RC event based on my experiences at the Silver State 200 gate event. But definitely an awesome event. West Wendover is a beautiful place to go crawling. I had a great time, met even more amazing people, and just continued to be inspired to get even deeper into this hobby. The 200 gates definitely kicked my Bronco's ass. It was full stock electronics. I burned out the stock motor. Luckily, I had a spare, but I had to get that all swapped in. It was a whole thing, but I really, really enjoyed it. I had an absolute blast. The people I met were awesome, and overall, it was just kind of that Kickstarter into the next phase of the RC hobby for me. After a few more events, I actually went and picked up, I was lucky enough to be in the hobby shop. I just needed to grab a spare part, and I went on the day that they released the Capra 4-wheel steer, and I just couldn't help myself. The buggy was something that had been attracting my eye for so long, and I knew that I loved the trail rig and I loved the Bronco, but it was never going to be able to accomplish the lines of something like the Capra, and so I gave in, and when the 4-wheel steer was available that day, I just bought it. Just right as soon as I saw it, I decided it was happening, and I bought it. And I haven't really looked back. That has been one of my favorite rigs so far. That was the birth of the High Noon Hobby Golden Capra. And we've got a lot in store for that truck to come, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. But that actually was the birth of one of the most popular early on videos that I had on the channel, which I think was just complete luck. I went back out with my buddy Derek, who runs Wildco. If you haven't checked him out, put a link in the description for that as well. But he came out to West Wendover with me, the same site of the Silver State 200 gate, and we went back out there and did a comparison video between the TRX4 Defender and the Capra 4-wheel steer. Definitely not a very fair or it was just a weird comparison video, but I think it got as popular as it did based on pure luck because I was someone who had the Capra four-wheel steer so early. There just weren't that many videos out on it, and so I ended up being one of the first videos on the Capra four-wheel steer, and because of that, it definitely helped the channel grow a ton. It's hard for me to always be the guy that gets the rig like before anyone else or as soon as it comes out. I'm still just like a broke college kid. I just got out of college. I'm just working a real adult job for the first time now. I don't have a ton of money to be thrown around on all sorts of different projects and whatnot, especially brand new rigs that are, $1,000+ or whatever. But I try my best, and I'm going to try more in 2023 to make connections and leverage connections that I have with hobby shops and people like that to try to get you guys reviews and unboxings and trail videos, mostly trail videos and running videos, because that's what I enjoy the most of newer trucks as they're coming out. So definitely stay tuned for that. There'll be more kind of newer trucks coming to the channel on 2023, I hope. And if you know anyone with those connections, definitely hit me up, because that's what I'm trying to do. About a month later, I ended up giving in again, succumbing to my poor spending decisions, and I just thought they were so cool. I've been watching them all over the place, and I really wanted something that was a bit more scale, so I ended up going out and getting an RC four-wheel drive TF2 Marlin Crawler Edition. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite trucks still to this day. We've actually got some new content coming up for this truck soon, but I don't want to get too far into that, but I have made some upgrades. But this has really been one of my favorite trucks so far in the whole fleet. I love the leaf spring suspension. I love watching this thing work, and it's a totally different style of crawling to your standard RC crawler. It's weird to say that because, you look at them and they do look, like the same type of truck, the same type of things going on, but with the leaf spring, with the weight displacement, with the way that the weight is positioned, and with the hard body and everything like that, it just makes it a really realistic and fun crawler to watch. Being able to float tires over stuff definitely changes the dynamic of driving a lot from something with tons and tons of travel that might just be a little unrealistic for like a full-scale scenario, where this Marlin crawler is definitely really fun, really realistic, and taking photos of this thing has been one of my favorite things too, for sure. But that's not for everyone. It's just something that I really, really enjoy doing. So you might not love the Marlin crawler or a TF2 platform if you're not just like looking for something that's less capable, but for me, the less capable rig makes it just more challenging to get up the same lines, and that makes it even more fun. You could say that my RC crawling addiction is in full swing at this point. It really didn't take too long, though. This is only like a month and a half after starting to get into these things, so be warned. This is something that you can get into, and it's a rabbit hole. You can go downhill with your addiction really, really quickly. Take me for your example. But I was having a blast working on trucks, meeting new people, hitting hard lines, learning how to drive, learning how to tune. It was all a blast for me. I was having a great time, and so I don't look back at it with any regrets. This has definitely been one of the funnest years I've had in a very long time. That said, it was about around this time when I decided to hop in this goon's car and drive nearly 700-800 miles round trip to go crawling down in southern Utah at Sand Hollow with a buddy that he had down there. He told me, this buddy knows the area really, really well. He's super, super into RC crawling, and we'll have a really good time if we go down there with him. So I took the bait. I hopped in the middle seat, forever became the middle seat guy, but little did I know this was going to be the first of very many trips crammed in the car with Luke from Scumbag RC and Mike from Sons of Crawl. I believe Dustin from D's Company was there with us that trip as well, which was an absolute blast. I can't remember if Zach was on that trip or not. I think it may have just been us, but I'll go back and look at some photos. You'll be seeing them now anyways, but it was an absolute blast. And this was also my first time meeting Logan from West Desert Wheeler, and in person at least. I had watched a few of his videos. He had been a huge inspiration for me to start the channel and create the type of content that I'm creating now, and to meet him in person was amazing. He's a really down-to-earth guy. He's become one of my really good friends, and I love hanging out with him, love crawling with him. His knowledge of crawling in general, full-scale, RC, like scale crawling, 1/10 scale, all of it. He has a really, really amazing knowledge, and he's so intuitive with his driving at this point, but he does a great job of explaining what it is that he's doing. If you haven't checked out his channel by now, I don't know what you're doing. You should definitely check out his channel. He's definitely got a lot more knowledge than me when it comes to how to drive an RC crawler, but you know, I'm trying to challenge him, kind of keep my quality of my videos, pushing him to create higher quality videos, and also doing, you know, more informational videos and just going my own direction with it. We definitely have different styles, which is fun, but he is a great channel on YouTube to check out, one that I was obsessed with early on, and to now call him my friend is really cool. And so this was kind of another one of those core memories this year that I was really grateful for the opportunity to get to go down to southern Utah with all these guys and have an absolute blast. And I was the guy with the Marlin crawler behind everyone with their four-wheel steer rigs and their crazy comp rigs, and I was just having a blast watching the Marlin crawler on the Red Rock. It's kind of something that people still know me for, as the TF2 guy down in southern Utah. So, you know, what can you do? Again, did I mention that we're still in December here? We're still less than like a month and a half away from when I started this hobby. So yeah, guys, be careful, because the rabbit hole, it'll grab you. It'll pull you down quick, especially if you meet an amazing crew of guys like I did, who will get you even more into the hobby even faster. It's dangerous, but it's really fun. Speaking of rabbit holes, this is leading us into January, which is actually the month that I got my 3D printer. A whole new rabbit hole that I opened up this year. But I started printing a whole bunch of bits and bobs and having a ton of fun with that. I actually picked up 3D printing pretty quickly and easily. It's something that if you are somewhat technically inclined, you know how to, you like tinkering with computers, or you don't mind kind of tinkering with some hardware for just a little while, you can get your 3D printer working really well pretty quickly. And I've had a ton of fun with it. One of the first things that I printed was a Knights Customs interior for the pig or the Bronco body, which is still in there right now. Printed it in PLA the first time around, and now it's been sitting out in like the California sun, in the desert, down in southern Utah in the desert, all over the place, in the backs of cars getting super hot, or just on tables with the sun beating down. And it is really warped now, so if you're going to print an interior, I probably would recommend PLA Plus at the least. But I have reprinted it in PLA Plus now. I just need to, this time around, I'm actually going to try to paint it and make it look really pretty. I've been too lazy to do that so far. It's just been sitting back there on the desk with a bunch of other projects that I need to get done as well. But I've been trying to chug my way through these projects, and I will get around to that eventually. I'm not good with painting things with my hands. Like, make logos and stuff on the computer. That to me is a lot easier. I have a lot more experience with that. But as soon as you put like a brush in my hands, I just don't know what I'm doing at all. So I'm putting that off for now, but I will get that done sooner rather than later. But yeah, 3D printers. If you're interested in a whole nother rabbit hole that will give you a whole another tens of thousands of hours of fun and learning, I definitely recommend you look into it. The extruder type is really, really easy to use and relatively inexpensive these days, so it's kind of fun. It's a fun secondary hobby, and you can print a lot of spare parts with the 3D printer, so you end up at least telling yourself that you're saving money, even if you're not. Also in January, I picked up my first real comp rig after going down south, after seeing how amazing those rigs were. Really, after spending enough time with Scumbag RC, it was inevitable, but I ended up picking up actually the old Scumbag RC, the Scumbag RC Mobile as we know it on the channel, but the Rock Pirates rig with the cliffhanger body. This is my first RC comp crawler. somewhat iffy electronics, but hey man, they've done absolutely great. The only thing I've really changed about this crawler throughout this entire season has been new tires, because it did need new tires, although the old tires worked really, really well. They just didn't have quite the traction of, they were axial crawlers. So switched them out for the Proline G8 crawlers, a little bit more traction out of the Proline compound, but the axial crawlers were still great. They lasted me for months and months. It's funny how little money I've put into the comp rig and how much joy I've gotten out of it. In fact, I made that whole video, like, can you compete for cheap, where I was talking about the Rock Pirates rig. Rock Pirates, they're the fam. They are the best. If you haven't checked them out, definitely do. They make awesome YouTube videos explaining a ton of their parts and doing different hard lines and stuff like that. But they also just make really, really great, inexpensive upgrade components that can turn just a regular basic truck straight out of the box, like the cheap ones, right? A base camp, a 10-2 builder's kit, something you can get for a few $100, and then you spend, less than $200 more, even 50, 60, like maybe $70 for like the bare essentials, and you'll have an amazing comp rig. And that's what I've been running for some time now, and continue to run, and will plan to continue to run it because I love it. And I love the guys at Rock Pirates. They are absolutely amazing. So that was my first comp rig pickup, and the addiction went even deeper from here. I didn't think that I would be buying another rig anytime soon, but it happened sooner than I thought. See, after that rig, I didn't think the opportunity would come around so soon, but I knew that I was looking for an opportunity to buy a VS410 Phoenix. I knew that's the rig that I wanted, and it just was a really, really cool quality rig built by Vanquish, and I wanted a Vanquish truck finally. Little did I know that the opportunity would come like just a few weeks later when Logan, West Desert Wheeler, was selling his Vanquish VS410 Phoenix rig, the Portal Edition, and I decided to swoop it. I couldn't help myself, especially getting it from Logan, a guy that I really looked up to. And that became Lieutenant Dan. And Lieutenant Dan has been another one of my absolute favorite rigs. A rig that I probably will never be selling. CNC's, the CNC custom wheels on it definitely complete the whole look for me. And it's an absolute line killer. It even keeps up with some comp trucks, depending on the driver. But it's a trail killer for sure. One of the best trail trucks you can get. And I've had an absolute blast with the VS410 Phoenix. In February, the Slut Crawlers took a trip down to Sand Hollow, but this time, instead of just a day trip, we turned it into a whole weekend of camping and crawling, and we had a whole amazing crew down there with us, and that trip was really an eye-opener for me as to these longer camping trips and how much fun they could be with the Slut Crawling crew. Really, I felt like I got to know everyone a lot better on this trip, and those relationships deepening has kept me super, super enthusiastic about the hobby throughout the entire year. And also, this trip was kind of a bit of the beginning of the conception of the North versus South, at least kind of the Slut Crawlers and West Desert Wheeler collaboration on the North versus South. This was really kind of the place that those relationships started forming, and that whole thing started coming to fruition. Following the Sand Hollow trip, the Slut Crawlers also went and hit the White Rocks event that the 801 RCC guys put on, the West Valley Hobbies guys put on, and that place actually left a pretty big impression on, I think, all of us in terms of just that area, how beautiful it is, how good the crawling was there, and we definitely intended to go back there soon. After coming back from down south, I decided it was time to start working on the Capra again and really start getting it into more of a capable setup. At the time that I brought it down there, it was just completely bare stock, and I was watching West Desert Wheeler, Logan, do all of these incredible, crazy things with his Capra. Now, obviously, he's a better driver than I am, but beyond that, he did have a really, really good setup, so I started tinkering and playing with the Capra, and that's actually where we started working on the Capra flat skid, and I made a whole video about that, and I'm still working on getting the flat skid with the dig setup. I need to print one more version of it before I think it's ready, but I've now gotten myself down a whole new rabbit hole with that Capra, putting it on a new a new chassis, and that's a whole new thing that I'm really stoked about. But we've got some things to get done before next season for sure. I'm excited and definitely look for more content on that coming soon. In March, we started the North versus South. The qualifying round started in March, and man, if I thought time was going by, if I thought time was a blur then, we're talking about Formula One speeds from this point out, with the combination of Slut Crawlers events, cash comps, high noon events at this point is when those started up, the North versus South, all of this different stuff happening. I camped well over 100 nights this year and spent hundreds and hundreds of hours with RC crawling buddies just having an absolute blast. March 12th was a particularly kind of memorable day for me, as it was the first day that I did my own High Noon Hobby event, and over 20 people showed up to that 10-gate event. We ran multiple different classes, 1, 2, and 3, I believe, which was way too much for us to take on for my first event, but it was a blast. We only had one time where the wind picked up and blew all the score sheets all over the place. Other than that, everything was flawless, perfect. Well, it was a learning experience, though. It was a ton of fun. I had a blast, and I want to thank every single one of the people that helped put that on, as well as all the people that showed up. It was really fun, and I look forward to doing more kind of a variety of different events in 2023. Looking forward to making things a little more creative. I know a lot of guys are going to be putting on cash comps, doing 10-gate stuff this next season. That's going to be covered. We're going to be really busy with that already, so I'm going to try to use High Noon to do some funner, kind of weird events that maybe you wouldn't have thought about before. And Mike from Sons of Crawl is helping me with a lot of these good ideas, so thank you, Mike. I also picked up FPV drones in March as well. Thank you, Jace or 816 Garage for getting me hooked on that rabbit hole, or got me down that rabbit hole. But FPV drones is a whole new section of the hobby that has completely taken over a large portion of my life as well. You guys haven't seen it as much on this channel so far, but I have hundreds of hours of drone footage at this point, and that's definitely going to be integrated into the channel more in this next year, and I'll probably be doing a video soon about how to get into FPV drones. If you're interested in that, leave a comment down below if you are interested in seeing a video like that. I'm just curious what the crossover between crawling and FPV drones might be. I think a lot of you guys, if you like one, might like the other, so I don't know. Let me know down below if you think the same. The events just kept coming. In April, we had the second round of qualifiers for the North versus South. Was only able to attend the North because I also had High Noon Hobby events happening at the same time, and it was just generally a very hectic time in my life. I was trying to finish my degree. I was working basically full-time hours in internship, freelancing on the side to make up for all the bills I had for all these RC crawlers that I was buying, and I was going to all these different events. So it was a lot, and it was kind of stressful. But looking back on it, it was definitely some of the best memories that I made, one of the best months that I've had in a very long time, and I wouldn't change anything that I did for the world. It was absolutely fantastic. In early May, I headed out on a celebratory trip to Mexico with my family, where we were celebrating all sorts of different things with the family, including my graduation, but I couldn't help myself. I had to pack the SCX-24. I actually made a video down there of the SCX-24 and edited it and put it all together while I was down there on vacation, uploaded it with crappy internet that I was completely overcharged for by the resort. It only took 8 hours to upload to YouTube. For your reference, a YouTube video at my house usually takes like tops, like this video is going to be like 45 minutes long or whatever, and it's going to take like 18 minutes to upload. So 8 hours was painful, and trying to not let the computer go to sleep. I think it like broke the upload twice because it went to sleep, and it disconnected from the internet. It was terrible. But I'm glad I did it once. I'm glad I can say that I did it. This last time that I went down to Mexico, I just scheduled some uploads so that while I was there, I didn't have to worry about that, and the videos still came out that you guys could enjoy. My family usually is kind of weird. We do like Friday to Friday trips so that we get the weekend when we come back, and you don't just like get plunged into real life life immediately, but that also means that I have to cover 2 uploads every time I go on a family vacation, which is kind of hard. But it was a blast. This last time I did a lot better with it, and I think in the future I'll maybe try to fit a 1/10 scale in my luggage somehow and see if I can find some different lines than I found last time. The night that I got back, the next day, was the 3rd round of the North vs. South qualifiers in the North, so I went to that. And just because I didn't think I was busy enough after that point, I decided to join Mike from Sons of Crawl and head down south for the North vs. South final qualifying round down there. It was the only Southern qualifying round that I was able to make it to, but it was an absolute blast. It was really, really cool to see the Southern guys competing. They're on a whole new level of like hardline killing down there in southern Utah with the Red Rock that they have access to all year long. It was really fun, and I started to kind of get to know some of the other southern guys, but I want to thank Logan for putting those on, and Luke even came down to all the southern ones and helped him out as well as a lot of the select crawler guys. So y'all know who you are. Y'all did a great job putting all these on, but that was the end of all the qualifying rounds for the North vs. South. And then it was time. The next weekend was the North vs. South Utah RC Crawling Championship down at 3 Peaks. Y'all know, if you've watched the videos that I put out, that Logan put out, there was a ton of content that came out of this event, but I didn't come anywhere close to claiming the state championship title, but I was absolutely honored to go down there, to meet the Rock Pirates guys, to finally meet, I think that's where, maybe I met him before that, but to really get to know Thomas from Fab 801. He brought out the full-size buggies, which was absolutely awesome to see, and just generally meeting the Rock Pirates guys. That was definitely the first time that I had met the Rock Pirates family in person, and they are absolutely incredible. Like I've said, that their hospitality was amazing. I mean, we were the guys that they came up to our state all the way from California, and yet they were still so much help. They set up a full booth, and really they helped support that first North vs. South Championship series. We couldn't have done it without their help. I definitely cannot wait to be a part of the North vs. South 2023 series. It's definitely going to be a banger, but I was honored to be a part of the first annual North vs. South Championship. And I want to thank again Luke from Scumbag RC and Logan West Desert Wheeler for putting that event together, for figuring all that out, and for making it possible for all of us to enjoy so much RC crawling this season. The Capra was performing flawlessly that whole trip down there, so I figured for sure that 3D printed flat skid had passed the durability test. I was wrong. We went down to the San Rafael Swell Grand Prix put on by 801 RCC, another amazing 200 gate event in another amazing location. The San Rafael Swell, it's got my heart. It's one of my favorite places in Utah, one of my favorite places in the world, and haven't really been around the world too much, but I have visited other countries and not just limited to the United States. But for the most part, Utah is my home grounds, but I love the San Rafael Swell, and I loved crawling down there. But unfortunately, it took the life of my Capra flat skid. That event did, and if you haven't seen that video, that's a pretty good one as well. Breaking of the Capra flat skid, and it's okay though. It's been reborn even stronger, even better now. But I did learn a few things about the brittleness of ABS plastic, and maybe not using ABS plastic for flat skids. Turns out PLA Plus is actually a lot better. Yeah, it'll bend instead of just snapping. So yeah, lesson for you there. After the San Rafael Swell, we didn't even go home. We actually headed even further southwest and met up with West Desert Wheeler, Thomas from Fab 801, and a bunch of other guys, Scumbag RC, down there, and enjoyed some amazing crawling in the Parowan, Utah area. A totally new area to me in terms of RC crawling. It was a really, really cool area, and I definitely want to spend more time down there this next year. With July came the heat, in Utah, we are still a high desert. It still gets hot here. And so that was really just an opportunity to head into the mountains. And I absolutely love the Uinta Mountains. So we headed up there. First time that we headed up there was July 3rd. And I guess it turns out that people like to go camping over to the July 4th weekend. So that was an absolute zoo. Don't do that. Or don't go to popular places. Try to find more hidden places, because we were inundated with people. But it was a really, really enjoyable trip, a totally different style of crawling through the woods, and there's actually a lot of really, really cool rock formations up there, especially up near Bald Mountain. Bald Mountain Pass is one of the highest areas in the Uintas that you can kind of easily get to with a car, and there's some really, really good crawling right there. We actually had another event just a few weeks later that was a cash comp put on by Scumbag RC as well. Scumbag had put on a lot of cash comp, something that I'm really appreciative to him for, because I know how much work that is. But that was a really, really cool one. The weather was perfect, and we had a blast up there on the pass. Just beautiful views, great crawling. It was a fantastic time. I was doing pretty well at that comp, actually, until I ended up sharing my steering servo on like gate 6 or something like that. I made a video about that as well, I believe. Maybe I didn't. Oh, I don't know if I did, because I don't know if I was actually recording that run. But, yep, sheared my crappy Chinese metal steering servo, swapped it out for a Vanquish product steering horn. I was saying servo. It was the servo horn. Stripped out the steering horn, or the servo horn, switched it out for a Vanquish Products one. I've heard some people talk about having issues with Vanquish Products steering horns, but I've absolutely not had any problems with mine at all since putting it in there. It's worked flawlessly on the comp rig, at least. I did strip out one Vanquish Product steering servo horn, but that is a little bit later in the story. We'll get to that in just a second. August brought even more downtime, but we still managed to have quite a few trail runs going on, and still some more Sorka-style comps put on by the guys up at the Northern Utah RC drivers, or the nerds. They put on a whole kind of more Sorka-oriented series this last season, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I ended up picking Cameron from that group's, Cameron's brain a little bit more, and we actually ended up even doing a comparison video, or shooting it. I didn't get to upload it until the start of September, but we shot this whole comparison video between a G-Speed chassis and was a Spare Times Hobbies chassis, by taking all of the same exact components and swapping them over from chassis to chassis. I learned a lot making that video with him. I thought that was really cool, and that video definitely is one that I would recommend checking out, because it does have a lot of valuable information, more than I could give you on my own, because Cameron is a really, really, really knowledgeable guy. He knows how to tune his trucks. September, things picked back up once again. Brought even more events, an invite-only cash comp down at Three Peaks, which was really, really fun, even if I wasn't even close to competitive with the guys that were there. It was awesome, and I learned a ton from watching some of the most competitive drivers I know go head-to-head. They did amazingly, and I had a really good time watching that. Made some videos, a whole series of videos covering that cash comp, because I thought that one was so good. Then it was on to my first night event, Descent into Darkness, which is put on by 801 RCC as well. Another 200 gate comp, but this time at night. A comp event, basically. But this was a real eye-opener for me as well. This was a really, really cool one. Getting to see for the first time just like a train of headlights and headlamps, little scale headlights and headlamps crawling their way up this giant kind of sandstone feature in the desert was really, really cool. And just seeing the city of RC crawlers that we made at night was really awesome. And then from there, moving on to the nerds putting on their kind of end of the year event out at Stansbury Island. That was amazing. That was one of my favorite events, just in terms of the beautiful views. Stayed the night before over there with Cameron as well, and we just enjoyed just absolutely beautiful views on the way out there, and beautiful views the next morning when we got up before anyone showed up. It was awesome, and the lines out there were killer as well. I actually also met Neil from SL3D RC that time at that event, and learned about his squid foams. Definitely check out squid foams if you haven't. They're a super, super sweet product. And he actually makes squid foams in a variety of different sizes that you won't find elsewhere, including a size for the West Desert Wheeler cut and shuts. Even if you want to run West Desert Wheeler cut and shuts with narrow offset wheels, like the Shift RC narrow offset wheels that they sell. Definitely a really rad guy, Neil, and he listens to the community and he helps everyone out. So I definitely recommend checking out his products. They're very reasonably priced as well. One thing I learned in September is that if you want parts to show up in time for events, you got to actually buy them like a ways before the event. I had bought some lit LED lights, and unfortunately they didn't show up in time for the Descent into Darkness event, but that's totally okay. That is 100% my fault, not at all his fault. But definitely also check out lit LED lights. After they came, I've gotten a ton of use out of them since then. They are fantastic kits. Makes a ton of a variety, again, kind of along with the same thing that squid inserts are doing. A lot of variety and flavor for everyone, if you will. So definitely hit up Manny from Lit LED because he does a great job as well. At the beginning of October, I experienced basically the most fun that I had in the RC crawling hobby so far, and it was my first out-of-state RC crawling event, which was Proline by the Fire 2022. Didn't make it to any of the other out-of-state events this year. Unfortunately, I kind of wasn't that deep into the hobby until a little bit later in the year, but I'm really glad that I made it to Proline by the Fire. It was an absolutely incredible event that I would recommend to anyone interested in going out to an RC event. The Apple Valley crawling scene was incredible. Horseman Center Park provided some fantastic obstacles, as well as Proline doing a great job just setting up all sorts of different activities. It was amazing to meet so many of the people in the hobby that I look up to, that I met online but never in person. It was really awesome to meet them face to face and get to know them a little bit better. I also participated in my first Scale Ultra 5K marathon, which was a marathon 5K run, which was really fun. I personally think that this is going to be one of my favorite kind of event types in the 2023 season. Luckily, I know that the 801 RCC guys run a 5K Scale Ultra at all of their events, or most of their events, and that's kind of to keep them practiced for the Scale Ultras that happen at these bigger out-of-state events as well. So I'm really looking forward to participating in more of those. I love the combination of kind of tuning your rig and really dialing it in, getting it to a place where it can handle a beating, and you're minimizing the chances of having to do some sort of on-trail repair, since you are combining both speed and technical crawling in the same event. And then also you're getting your exercise at the same time for the day, which I think is just like the perfect combination for me personally. It's not for everyone, and I get that, but if it does sound interesting at all to you, I do recommend that you follow the Scale Ultra on Instagram. I'll leave a link to him down in the description as well. Proline by the Fire was definitely an amazing experience from beginning to end. I love meeting people. I love checking out new terrain, new obstacles, stuff like that, and learning so much more about the hobby, which I totally did at Proline by the Fire. Also, big shout out again to the hospitality of the Rock Pirates guys. That entire family is incredible. They went above and beyond for me, and I really appreciate them. So Rock Pirates, you rock. There'll be a link to Rock Pirates down in the description for sure. But it just inspired me to go to more out-of-state events. I'll definitely be trying to get to more of them this next season. We'll see what we can squeeze in there. I'd love to try out Axial Fest and see, I've heard it's a very different environment, a very different kind of style of crawling, less high desert, more alpine style. So I'm interested to see what that looks like, and I'd love to go out to that event as well. One of my other favorite parts about the Proline by the Fire event was the way that we did it. We stopped at St. George on the way down down there and on the way back. So we basically made a whole week-long trip of crawling, and you can't complain about a week of RC crawling. It was absolutely fantastic, and I had a great time with that. And we actually, on the way down, got to stop at St. George while Trail Hero was happening, Trail Hero 2022. So it was really cool to get inspired by seeing some full-size buggies. Like, I'd never seen an entire line of full-size buggies going through and hitting different obstacles, but that was absolutely incredible. I really hope that next year they don't do Proline by the Fire and Trail Hero on the same dates. I hope that those are separated so I can attend both of those events, because I'd love to do that. That was just the beginning of October. It wasn't by any means the whole month. We did end up going back down to St. George yet again that month. I believe that was for the 3-tier comp that Trevor put on, which was really, really fun. I actually went down there with T, and we experienced some very interesting weather while we were down there, but we had an absolute blast, and I really, really liked that kind of different style of event that Trevor put on. It was quite enjoyable for, I think, everyone who attended, and it definitely sparked my mind, or sparked some ideas in my mind when it came to some different styles of events that you might be able to hold. Made a whole video about that. You can watch that one as well. That has some kind of interesting thoughts, at least. Might not be your flavor, but if you're interested in hosting your own events or kind of seeing maybe some different variety in the RC crawling event scene, maybe it's one for you to watch and suggest around. November brought a few more events, a few more trips out to Little Moab, some more kind of just hard line practice, 10-gate practice, but it also brought some colder weather, and that meant some more inside tasks and events and whatnot. I did end up cleaning and kind of building a shelf system in my garage so that I could have more space for projects. That was kind of motivating and fun. And I also ended up picking up what has become, or what I knew would be already as I was putting it together, even online on the shopping cart. I knew that it would be one of my favorite rigs, and it has turned out to be my favorite rig for sure. Definitely the first rig that I would say I've built that you could even narrowly consider a shelf queen, even though it's still built by me, so it's certainly still not perfect. I don't claim perfection whatsoever, but I got an RC Speedy C3, the Ultra truck chassis, and I have been having an absolute blast with this thing. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten it out very much since I built it, but I was like a kid in a candy shop when I got this thing. I was so excited, or a kid on Christmas Eve. I literally built this entire thing in one night. I built it in a cold garage in one night. It's so much excitement for that rig. I literally made myself sick by doing that, and then leaving like the next day to go test it down in St. George and doing a full day trip in St. George. 100% worth it. I had an absolute blast doing that, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I was sick for the next week probably because of my decisions that night, staying up all night literally, and like not going to bed. I think I went to bed at like 6:30 and slept until like 7:30. So bad idea, but a great truck nonetheless. Fantastic truck, and I'm really, really looking forward to driving the Speedy more. In fact, I'm so in love with it that I've already got another Speedy chassis that I'm going to be building and doing a whole video on very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that one as well. It's funny because this is definitely, like I said, the first truck that I would kind of consider like a shelf queen that I've built, but I'm actually not going to be keeping it on a shelf at all. In fact, I'm probably going to be throwing a 4S battery in it and seeing if I can turn this into my Scale Ultra rig, which is like probably a sin to a lot of people to beat on a chassis like this so hard, but it's what the hobby's all about, right? So I'm gonna do it. It's also the only like logical ultra rig I have. I could buy a bomber, but I'm not. I'm just dumb. So yeah, sorry. Now here we are in December, and looking back on it, this has been a pretty crazy and a pretty full year for me. If you were to try to binge all the videos on my channel right now, including live streams, like it would take you like over 36 hours, I think, to watch all of my content, which is like crazy. That's longer than a lot of like Netflix series. it's weird for me to think about. I've definitely become a full-blown hobby addict, but I love it. I've made so many friends. I've made so many memories. I've had so many amazing experiences. And I've learned so much, and I have learned so much about myself. I've learned that I'm a mover. I'm someone who doesn't like to be in front of a desk or a couch or on your phone. I'd rather be tinkering. I'd rather be filming. I'd rather be adventuring, making new memories, making new friends. And so looking forward to 2023, I want to do more of that. I want to have even more experiences, even more adventures, even more fun. And I think we're going to do it. I think we've built the community to do it. And I think I'm excited to bring all of you guys along on this next leg of the journey. And I hope you're as excited as I am to make it happen. So I want to, once again, thank each and every one of you, because all of this wouldn't be possible without you. And it certainly wouldn't be nearly as fun. But yeah, thank you for being here with me. I hope you guys enjoyed this very long video, me describing my experience so far, and hope you picked something up, learned something from it. And, well, yeah, I appreciate all of you guys, the feedback you've given, the advice you've given me, knowledge, and just the friendship. So cheers to this year and another great one. All right. We'll see you guys next time.